Hello everyone, and for those of you that are watching later, welcome to the GLSE tips on how to find your research position, your summer job, anything you'd like to do the next summer for undergraduate students. So welcome. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope that you had a nice relaxing break, hopefully, and that you are doing as best as you can under our current circumstances. And I hope you are taking time for yourself, which is really important, which I gave you that a little bit of 10 minutes in between the last meeting and the class so you can get that off-screen break. So I'm going to start sharing my slides. And if you have any questions as I go along, please write in the chat. And also, if you cannot see my slides, also let me know that as well. Okay. All right. So here we are, and actually just to get a feel for who is here, can people write in the chat your year of study and also what you hope to apply for, what sort of summer opportunity would you like to see this summer? So just getting a gauge, do you want to work in a lab in the university? Do you want to find a job outside the university? Just to see what everyone's up to. Okay, lab research, great. Wonderful. And just to also, how many of you are also interested in graduate school, perhaps? Maybe just write a yes or no, interested in grad studies. Yes, okay. And then how many of you already have some lab experience? So yes, if you have lab experience. A few of you. Okay, wonderful. Right, so I just want to gauge, so some people haven't, some people it may be your first time. Okay, just getting a feel for who's in the room. Okay. Okay. So I like to start with stories. So this is a story of Miranda and Jenny. Jenny is the one in the glasses. And Jenny Yao is actually a biochemistry alumni. She finished with a BS in biochemistry at the University of Toronto. And here are the two young ladies, and they're giving a TED Talk. So I'll tell you the story of how they got there. So this is a story of Miranda, and Jenny has a similar story. But Miranda was always into taking care of the environment. So when she went to her high school, she realized there's no composting program here. So she started one. So this was, and then she helped other sister schools start their own composting program. So it's something that she started. And then when she got into school and university, she realized she had this love for science. And she pursued a master's at the University of Pennsylvania. And she kind of put stuff together that she was really interested in. So she loved molecular biology. She was really interested in entrepreneurship and how to engineer things together. And she also dabbled in philosophy. So all this to say, she kind of created her own niche, what her interests were. So then all this time, so Jenny and Miranda are good friends, and one day they were walking on the beach and they said, there's a lot of plastic on this beach. So they started to collect all the plastic, and at the end of half an hour, they collected 2 bags worth of plastic. So this was really disturbing to them, and they decided to really delve into, okay, who are the plastic experts on the planet, and how can we bring them together, and we need to combat this problem. So throughout her undergraduate and her graduate career, she really did a lot of outreach to different professors, different researchers that were working on plastic, decomposing plastic, and how to deal with the plastic issue. When she was in Pennsylvania, she also realized her school did not have a TEDx pen, so she started that as well. So you can kind of get the general story of Miranda as she likes to start things. And usually the best way to start things is if you realize there is something that's missing. So if you feel like in your program, in your department, in whatever aspect of your life you feel, you know, it would be great if we had this, that's a great opportunity for you to create something. And that's what all employers look for, whether you're going into academic research, industry research, or government research, is that showing initiative. And just a little background about me, I spent a few years in the biotech industry, and I've come back into the academic world, so I have a bit of experience in both. So you could ask any questions, whether academia or industry. Okay, so Miranda and Jenny, they got together and they created this company called BioSelection, and their mission is to take the plastic pollution and make it into some sort of value, and using technologies with their scientific advisory board and their science expertise that they have collaborated and networked with. Okay. So why am I telling this story? I'm telling this story is because you can make whatever you want to do. I mean, there's so much potential in all of you. You are an undergraduate here at the University of Toronto, and that in itself says something, right? So I'll just give you a viewpoint. This is a data slide from HECO, which is a higher education quality of Ontario, and they have looked at all the undergraduates that have graduated, and this was taken probably 10 years ago. So if you look on the left-hand side, this is the field of study for undergraduates. And let's zoom in on what's highlighted there in physical life sciences, 8% major in physical and life sciences. And if you zoom in even further, okay, from this 8% of undergraduates, where are they all going? They've blown that up into the occupation on the right-hand side. And as you can see on the right-hand side, it's just everywhere. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to major, let's say, in health sciences or life sciences because you are in sciences. You can look on the right, so about 10% do go into health, 6% go into natural and applied sciences, but everyone else is kind of all over whatever place you want to go, right? So the world's your oyster, literally. So that's something that I want to plant a seed there, is that just because you've majored in, say, immunology, it doesn't mean that you will stay an immunologist. You may want to, that's great, but there are other things out there. Okay, so how do you talk about creating this path? And this is I just wanted to talk about this because some people kind of go to the expectations. Oh, I majored in science, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the next step. It's sort of like this progressive next step that's expected of you because you're either your parents or your professors. They say, oh, you're good in this, why don't you continue on to a graduate degree? Oh, you're really good at this, let's do a PhD. Oh, you're really good at this, let's do a postdoc. And you just kind of go along, and which is fine sometimes, but sometimes it's nice to just think about what you want to be doing, really. So the course that I teach for graduate students is called Graduate Professional Development, or Creating Your Career Path. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about that because it also applies to you as well. The first step in anything, in any, even if you're looking for a summer job for this summer or for 2 years from now, is really reflecting on what you want to be doing. And I'll give you some tips later on how we do that. The second part is meaningful engagement. So meaningful engagement can be, working in a lab this summer is one thing, but also, if you are coaching somebody or tutoring somebody or being involved in what you want to be involved with. And we'll talk a little bit about how to do that as well. And the third step is storytelling, right? So you've done all this reflection, you've made all these meaningful engagements, but really, if someone wants to hire, the world doesn't know what you've done if you don't storytell what you've done in an effective manner. So we'll talk about how to do that. Okay. So the first step, there is a tool called the Individual Development Plan, and I'll put it in the chat later. But this is a very quick way of doing this in your own time. And what I usually do for my class is we'll do brainstorming sessions on these 3 circles. So what are these 3 circles? This is called the purpose compass, and it's to find your purpose. So they say for people with careers, about 25% of them had a calling. They say, oh, this is my calling. This is what I really want to do. And they know exactly what they want to do. But 75% of people who have careers, they have careers and they've created something meaningful within that career that they find really impactful. So this kind of helps you, guide you on your purpose compass. So the first circle is, what do you love to do? So in my class, I actually have students just brainstorm. What do you love to do? What makes you feel alive? What do you like to do in your free time? Right? So then this can be everything and anything: baking, cooking, reading about science, playing an instrument, whatever that is. And you brainstorm a whole bunch of those ideas. And then the second circle is your strengths and skills. What are you good at, or what do you hope to be good at? And this is more, traditionally recognized through grades. So if you got A+ in math all through high school, you're probably really good in math. If students, teachers have told you you're really good at organization, then that's something you're really good at. So those are your strengths and your skills. And maybe after your undergraduate, or perhaps after your master's or PhD, you want to become that X-ray crystallographer. So that's something you hope to become good at. And the third circle here is what you care about. So what problems do you feel moved by? Think about your community, the family, the country, the wider world. Okay, so these three places, you want to be in the middle here where the compass is, so that you are in a career, or you're in a place where you love doing what you're doing, you're really good at it, and you care about it. And that really gets you up in the morning, okay? And it's not something that you're just doing because it's expected of you. Now, the fourth circle that you're going to be adding on later on is you have to be able to get paid for it. Last time I checked, everyone has to pay for their bills and groceries and food on the table. So that's the other circle you'll be thinking about later on as you go toward the career. So what I usually do in a class setting is I would have everyone brainstorm all these different circles and in different sticky notes. And then I would have students make trios. So now you're putting different things that you care about, what you're good at, and what you love into these different trios. And then you go into groups and you brainstorm different ideas or different meaningful engagements of how you can create these trios. Right? So for example, this particular student, they really cared about climate change. And the strength is that people have told them that they're social. They're really good at community building. And this student really loves to write. So one of the ideas that their peers came up with was that they could start a blog with their friends about tips for a greener lifestyle with incorporating science. So this is what I call meaningful engagement, is that you're taking all three of these things and you're making some sort of engaging activity or an interactive activity with the rest of society that can help you with your future career. And you don't have to exactly know what that is right now. Okay. So this blog could help this person either become a science communicator, it can help them become a science researcher, a potential faculty member, somebody in business development. But whatever this meaningful engagement is going to help you propel you into that career. Any questions about sort of reflection and brainstorming ideas about that? Okay. So this is the part that I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, is how do you write that cover letter? How do you write that email? How do you obtain that job, right? So this is storytelling your brand. So up till now, you've done a lot of great things, whether it's academic record or extracurricular activities or community involvement. How do you tell that to people in a very effective way? Okay. So there are some various things that you should be involved with. So LinkedIn, especially if you want to be engaged in, let's say, an industry lab setting this summer or somewhere that's not part of academia, LinkedIn is the place you want to be. A lot of the professors are not quite as into LinkedIn, but a lot of the biotech companies are. Okay. Your business card, now I have a picture of a business card here. What that means literally is having your email signature at your business card. So whenever you write to somebody for a potential job or a potential internship, all of you should have an email signature. Okay? So what is your email signature? If you look at people's business cards, what are they going to be? They're going to be your name. And then what is your title? It could be immunology specialist or biochemistry specialist, geology major. And then maybe you're part of a student council. It could be student council president or student council treasurer. So whatever brand you have right now, that's the title. And then under that, you're going to have your LinkedIn URL if you have one, your phone number, and your email address. And if you're working in a lab already, then you're going to have the physical address of the lab. So it's like if you had a business card, what would that be? So any email you send, right? So you have to kind of turn the caps a little bit and stop thinking of yourself as, people say, just a student. You're more than that, right? You are a professional, but think of yourself as one. And so when you do have emails, when you're sending emails out to potential professors about working in their lab, you need to have this business card in your email. Okay. And of course, your emails should be professional, so the topic should be directly to the point. You know, seeking or summer job position or summer lab position, that's in the subject. This whole networking bit that I have down here, I know it's a different world right now, but you can still be doing this networking at a virtual setting. And I also have an article about that. Let me see, I think I have a question. Okay, for some reason I can't see the chat while I'm speaking, so I'm going to pause and stop sharing, and I'll get to your question as soon as I finish this slide. So the next, so the networking, it's a little bit difficult to do, but you can still reach out for informational interviews to graduate students. So let's say you're interested in a lab. Let's say Dr. Peter Lewis's lab, right? So you're going to reach out to him. You're also going to reach out to the grad students in the lab just to see what it's like working there, but also the dynamics of the lab. Okay, that's reaching out, that's networking. So this last piece, which is sort of the resume and the whole application part, is where I want to spend most of my time on. Okay, so let me just stop for a second so I can see the chat here. Okay. How would you write the email signature? Would it be at the end when you sign off, like sincerely email signature? Yes. So you would say sincerely Jessica, and then under that you would have an email signature. Okay. Should you have your degree name in the signature? So if you have a BSc, then yes, you would have your name, comma, BSc, name, comma, MSc. And is it okay to include your specialist program even if you haven't finished the degree? You can write in there second year biochemistry specialist. Okay, so you can specify what year you're in. Okay. Any more questions on the email signature? Right. So let's go back to when you're applying. So when you're applying for jobs, what are they going to be looking at? They're looking at your cover letter. So first of all, they're going to be looking at the email coming in. So that has to be really professional. And then they're going to be looking at the cover letter and then the resume or CV. And depending on what they're asking for, so academics usually ask for CV. Outside of academia, they're going to be asking for a resume. So a resume is going to be about 1 page because it's per 10 years of experience, you'll have 1 page on a resume. Your CV can go on forever. So I know professors that have 100 pages plus for their CV. But a resume should be 1 page for 10 years of experience. And then in your resume, a lot of people have their title of a job that they worked on, and then under that is like these bullet points. They organized this, they were responsible for this. But those bullet points, what we call descriptors, should be what are called CAR statements. Okay, these CAR statements, it stands, the CAR, like what does a CAR have to do with the resume? The CAR stands for challenge or context, A is for action, and R is for results. So what does that mean? Okay, so I asked the student, I said, if you were to explain to me one of the most, inspiring moments of your time, of your time here in school, or if you want to relay to an employer that you can be a motivator. So for example, this student, they found a job description and said, well, they're looking for a communicator that can motivate people. And this student told me the story. As a first ever TED Talk, I researched social organizations on campus, publications on NPOs, organized a working group, implemented feedback practiced my talk with them several times. I gave the talk with follow-up conversations and learned that several students had started their own groups revolving around social innovation and nonprofit ideas. So this is a really great story, but it's a bit too long. You can't, this is a very long bullet point to put under your resume. So what you have to do as a person writing this resume is you have to figure out, okay, well, what do I want to highlight? What is the action verb that I want to highlight? So this student says, well, I want to highlight that I can motivate, okay? Because that's what was in the job description. So this is where the job description is really helpful to have, is to really read the job description is to find out, okay, why are they asking for somebody? Why do they want to hire somebody? And then talk about the action verbs that really stress the job description, really cater towards that job. So if this student, what they did was, okay, I'm going to rewrite this so that it's succinct to the point around motivate. Okay. So the first statement is context or challenge. That's to engage youth in their own advocacy. That's straight to the point. Why is usually why you did this action. The action is developed and presented at TED U of T Talk on developing federal policies, utilizing a relatable personal story. And then what was the result? Resulting in 5 student groups to be inspired to start their own advocacy programs. So this is it's a shorter car statement, and it gets straight to the point, and it helps the reader say, wow, this is a great story, and it tells me that this student can motivate others. So when you're telling the you have to ask yourself, well, how is your car statements? How is it going to be unique or special? So for example, if you're writing an application and all second years are applying to the same lab, and let's say you all had tutoring experience. So how are you unique as opposed to the classmate next to you? Okay. Was it because you worked at a tutoring agency? Was it you found your own clients? How did you relate, and did you individualize, customize plans for that student? How were you unique and special? If you were part of a sports team or a music team, what did you contribute so that if you weren't there, it would be different? So that's what you're looking for. And then what skill do you want to highlight? So you go back to the job description and find some skills that match what you want to highlight, and what are the concrete actions you took to achieve the outcome? And what was your impact? And you have to check for your car linkage. Okay. So here are some examples. Okay. So the CV, this is what it usually looks like on the left-hand side. It's just a list of everything you've ever done. And on the right side are these stories. And some people say, well, that looks like a lot of words. But actually, if you write this out on an 8.5 by 11 page, it should be about 2 lines. Okay, so left-hand side, again, is just listing. List, list, list. Right-hand side is a story. So let's just go over the middle one there. To build community spearheaded interdepartmental collaboration with 8 other student councils to host first ever undergraduate mentorship program, resulting in 56 students finding professional mentors over 3 years. So this is one thing to keep in mind, is that if you can quantify anything, it's very helpful to do that. Because now I know as an employer, this individual worked with 8 other student councils over 3 years, and now there's 56 students that have found their mentors. So the numbers don't have to be large. It just gives the employer a sense of what sort of groups that you are accustomed to be working with. And car statements are not easy to form. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a your turn thing here, and I'm going to share this Google Doc. I'll share my screen once everybody's on it. Okay, and you should be able to access that. I'll wait till everybody's on it to tell you what we're going to do next. Sorry about that. There's the link. Okay. All right, so now I see some cursors here. Wonderful. So what I would like for you to do right now is I want you to, you can use your real name, a nickname, put a name in the column A. And then in column B, you're going to write what you're applying for in the summer, or maybe this is for grad school, or, and I want it to be real. I want you to get something out of the session. So I want you to write what you're applying for. And the previous role is you're going to be writing a car statement that you did in a previous role. And it could be a current role that you're currently working in, or it could be something you did in high school in your senior year, or something you did in first year. And then, so then you get a context of where or when this occurred. And then you're going to be writing a car statement, okay, just like we did. And I gave you an example up here. And if most of people are saying research, so researchers, what they're looking for. So if you've never had research experience, how do you write a car statement if you don't have research experience? Is they're looking for people that show initiative, that are quick learners, that are great with a team, that have high emotional intelligence, that are great with people, right? So if you had a position where you mentored somebody, or you tutored somebody, or you worked on a team and you got something done, that's what you want to highlight in the car statement. So even if you don't have research experience, you can highlight all those other core competency skills that professors and employers are looking for. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to work on these car statements, and then we're going to give each other some feedback. So let's say 10:38. So how about 5 minutes, and I'll see how things become populated. And I'll give you a little bit of thinking music while you do this. And I'm still here, so if you have any questions, let me know. Right, so for those of you who are still working, keep on working. And for those that are finished your CAR statements, I want you to pick a column further on down EF, and I want you to give your peers some feedback, okay, on their CAR statement. So the feedback would include, this is what you're looking for, make sure that they have a context, action, and results linkage. So if they're missing the context or an action or results, you can point that out. Or if it's not clear what those which of the C's and A's and R's are, you can point that out as well. So you want to be writing some feedback for your peers if you see the CAR linkage. Number 2, did they quantify what they were doing? So if they talked about work with students, is there a number? Okay, so how many students? Okay, so quantify. Did they quantify? And the third thing you want to give feedback on is their action verb. Right? So their action verbs should be something that is descriptive. So it shouldn't be something like worked or participated or, it has to be something that really describes what they did, such as spearheaded, initiated, something that's a little bit more specific, okay? So those are the 3 things you're looking for as feedback givers, and be kind. Feedback givers, you want to talk about, I wasn't sure if there's a CAR linkage, C-A-R, and also did they quantify? And the third point is the action verb strong enough? Let me just. So in the chat, I'm going to provide you with a link. And these are action verbs, the MIT resume action verbs. So these are the action verbs you want to be utilizing in your CAR statements. So it's not, it's a little bit more descriptive. Okay. 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 All right. Wow, this is great. So all of you that have contributed, this is great. And what I'll do is we'll just go through one together for the sake of time. And then I'll leave this on until tomorrow. And then you can add in your CAR statement. And then I will also provide some feedback. So your peers can provide feedback. And if I feel that there could be some extra feedback, I'll also do that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to randomly pick one here. Okay, so let's look at this one. Enhance the online learning experience of IB students in Kenya. Taught IB students online while applying innovative teaching techniques, drawings, and animations to improve conceptual understanding. The outcome was a dramatic increase in predicted grades for those subjects to a 6 or 7 in all cases. This is a great story, and it's something definitely worth talking about. And it's a great start for a CAR statement. The feedback I would give here is that I'm not quite sure where the context was and where the action starts. So the actions and kind of context is kind of blending in together. So you may want to bring the context up front and then talk about the action verbs later on, which is enhanced, taught. Okay, so maybe it's to improve conceptual understanding. That could be the context. To improve conceptual understanding of, I think this is high school students, and also the number of students that you work with would be helpful here. They enhance the online learning experience of IB students in Kenya. So since you've already talked about online, you don't have to say it the second time, while applying innovative teaching techniques. And we're not using brackets or parentheses on a resume. You want to make sure that every word counts. can eliminate those. And then resulting in an increase in, I'm assuming grades here, but something to work on is to make it a little bit more succinct, but that's a really great start. So any questions on CAR statements? Okay. Do we use CAR statements in our resume or CV? Definitely on your resume. And in the CV, in certain sections, so if you look at the traditional CV, if you go to Faculty of Medicine, there's a CV for professors, and that's something you could just look at just to see the template. I'll provide that link as well. There's under each job, there's a section called descriptors or description. So that's where you would write your CAR statement. So for you, if you're writing a CV, how is it different from a resume? Since you're fairly earlier on in your studies, if your page is one page, it may look pretty similar. However, going on and when you're going into graduate school or graduate studies, it's going to look very different as you progress throughout your scientific career. Do we think we can reference experiences from leadership positions we had in high school if we're in our final years of undergrad? Okay, so this is the same question I get at how far do you go back, right? How far do you go back? So if you said if you had anything that was impactful, so let's say you started something in high school, such as Miranda's story about her composting program, that will forever go in her resume because that's really impactful. So think about the impactful things you did in high school. So if you were a captain of a team or a president of student council, but also what did you do different that wasn't from last year's, right? So how did you bring you into that position? That's what people want to know. Okay? So go far as back, like if you won Olympic gold medal when you're 15, it's going to stay on your resume forever. Okay, so it doesn't really matter on how many years ago, it's just a matter of context. How should we describe the same experiences differently in a cover letter versus a CV or a resume? So that's a nice segue to the next portion. And I'm going to finish my talk. And for those of you that can stay, I will finish answering some of the questions. Okay. And then if you can't be here for the after 12 o'clock, I'll put the questions in a sheet so that everyone can see it later on. Okay. Where did it go? Okay. So the cover letter, which we're going to be talking about. So the cover letter is, you have to write not what you've already done, but what you are intending to do or what you hope to do in their lab. Okay. So what does that mean? That means if you're applying, let's say, to Dr. Peter Lewis's lab, he works on histone deacetylases. So you should know, have read maybe his review papers or a couple of papers that just came out from his lab and talk about how you hope to contribute to his lab working on histone deacetylases. What do you hope to characterize? And why do you want to work on yeast histone deacetylases, right? So it's talking about almost proposing your own project. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to work on that project, but they will be very impressed that you read their papers and you came up with a potential project. And it's not just, oh, I want a lab position. Very, very different. So when you have these resumes, the other part, which is the cover letter is really, really important in that you're outlining what you hope to do for them. So the first line could be something like, Dear Dr. Lewis, I am offering my academic scholarship, right? Let's say you have really good marks, my academic scholarship, my interest in histone deacetylase biochemistry, and my so many years of teamwork experience. Right? So the teamwork is based on, let's say you were in Little League baseball and you did a bunch of group activities or team sports. All that is part of your brand. You're good with people. That's really important. And then to the position of summer student researcher to strengthen or to assist in your research in the effect of chromatin structure on gene regulation. So it's very specific what you're bringing to what position, and how you want to help them. Okay, so any questions on sort of that brief synopsis of the cover letter? It's not about what you've already done. Okay, so you want to take that out of your head. You have to switch the table around and say it's what you hope to do for them. Okay. So your action plans for your undergrad. Okay, so maintaining a great record is good. You don't have to have A+ across the board, but some sort of good marks, good. You need to have an activity that you've been involved with. And this could be a sports, a music, it could be writing, something that you're passionate about, that you care about. Having a reflection and action items upon that reflection, such as the purpose compass exercise we talked about as you reflect on yourself and what you hope to be doing next. Ask questions. So ask graduate students, professors, people that are finished graduate school, why are they doing what they're doing? How did they get there? What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? What were their challenges? If they went to do a program at Queen's versus McGill versus U of T, why did they pick their program? That's really important. There's a lot of professional programs out there right now, the 2-year masters. Find out what those graduates are doing. The program looks great. It looks wonderful when you go to their website, but figure out who their alumni are and ask them questions. You know, are you in a job? Could you have done it without this degree? How did you get to this pathway? These are really important. And that's what an informational interview is flipping that interview so that you're asking questions. If you can, find that internship and then measure your impact for your own self, but also for your resume. Okay, so you're gonna use these techniques no matter where you go, for the summer lab, an industry job, or grad school. And here are some resources that would be helpful for you. So the provincial internship funding is the Ontario Centre of Excellence. They do provide funding for salaries for interns. Same thing with the SWILP program, which is a student work integrated learning program. They will give you a salary for the summer if you apply for anything that has to do with the bioeconomy. Okay. And then I'm going to answer these questions. And while I'm answering these questions, it would be wonderful if you can fill out this feedback form. And again, if any of you have time, I will stay here until I answer all of the questions. And for those of you, if you have to leave at 12 and you can't stay, then you are welcome to email me. I'll put my email in here. And then I'm just going to go down the questions. Okay, so the questions I have here. Would applying to research positions be more effective with a CV or a resume? So that's what Senya has asked. So it depends on where that research position is. If the research position is in academia, they're probably going to be asking for a CV. If you're applying for a biotech position, they will probably ask for a resume. Okay, so anything outside of the university setting, they'll ask for a resume. If the result part mandatory if the previous experience is working in a research lab, and the research is still in progress. So if you are in that position currently, you want to say there's no result, right? So it's resulting in, you can't really talk about that, but you can say with the goals of, right? As opposed to resulting. You're doing you're doing all these actions with the goals of what you predict that result to be. Okay, any other questions while you have me here? As you meant to maintain a GPA, what do you do if the job asks for a transcript and you have a semester that's not the best in terms of marks, but the other semesters are good? Should you address that anywhere in your cover letter and talk about learning from that experience? Well, if you feel like you want to do that, you don't have to. But if you feel something happened that semester and you learn from that, that's something that you might want to add, as long as you're okay of disclosing any information. But definitely include what Jessica mentioned is learning from that experience. So if things didn't go as what you expected one year, what's more important is what you got out of that. You know, whether it was a time management issue or a wellness issue, what did you learn about yourself from that? And what are you doing now so that things are on track. That's what people want to know. Damo asks, do experiences in high school sports teams still count here? Can I use them for resumes in any useful way? So sports on high school teams, yes. And why is that? Because it shows people that you can work on a team. Working on a team is huge, especially in a lab setting. You have to be able to work as a team, communicate as a team. It's like clockwork. You know, people come in, people go out of the lab. They have to maintain your chemical reagents together. It's a teamwork experience. So how do you write that on a resume? So let's say you're part of a soccer team for 10 years. Okay, or maybe you coached soccer, or maybe you were a captain of the soccer team. What you want to highlight is not how great you are as a soccer player, but you want to highlight how you are as a team player, to maintain community building, to maintain effective teamwork skills. What did you do? And this could be from coordinating the practices, or maybe you were in charge of community building in other ways, or scheduling the practices, or coming up with ways to tutor the new players coming in so the seniors can help them, right? So any sort of mentorship that you had as a sports team, okay? That's a good question. Everyone asked that question, but yes, sports team, music things, anything like that. Where would you put that explanation about the lost marks? And should you mention current coursework that might be useful in the course, and should that be separate from the experiences? So the current coursework that could be useful in the current, let's say you are applying for, let's say, Reinhard Reitmeyer's lab, and he does cell membrane protein. If you're taking a course on membrane proteins, that can go under education section and specifically highlighting that you are currently enrolled in membrane protein biology. How would you explain the lost marks? This could go in perhaps, it kind of depends on how you want to talk about that. You can talk about that in your cover letter, but not make it a big focus of it. You may say just like a one-liner on what happened there. Or it could go under a CAR statement because you learned something from it. Maybe you enhanced your conflict management skills, or you enhanced your time management skills. That could go under there. So it kind of depends on the story and where you want people to see. Okay. You need 10 years of experience in a team to put into a resume. No, you do not. You can have 1 year of experience on a team. It doesn't really matter how many years, but the most important thing is what you got out of that experience. What was the result of that experience? You could be part of a team for 4 months, but if you spent a lot of time, you hashed out a project together, and now this project is a part of a bigger project. Maybe it's like a departmental project now, and that's impactful. So you want to talk about that. Okay. That's the difference, when people talk about, oh, you should do that because it looks great on your CV, or I'm going to pad up my CV to do that. I don't really like it when people say that. Okay. The reason being is that I can tell right away when people are just writing it down for the sake of padding up their CV, and for when they actually did something meaningful, and that really shines through the CAR statement. You can be attending meetings every year, but if you didn't really contribute, you just sat there, that shouldn't even go on your CV, right? Because you just sat there. But even if you attended a set of meetings for a year or for 6 months, and you contributed an idea, and now it's being implemented and it's being used, that's huge. That's something you want to talk about. And I know it's 12 o'clock. So for those of you that have to leave, thank you for joining us. For those of you that want to stick around and ask for more questions, I will be here. But good luck in your applications, and you can access this recording later on as well. All right, so the next question is, I'm pretty introverted and did not have a lot of past experience. My grades aren't bad, but there are definitely a lot of people with better academic performance. All in all, I don't really stand out at all. What should I do to still gain the employer's interest? But I find that students, you really underestimate yourself. And you don't have to have started your own company, or coached your soccer team, or you don't have to have these things that we traditionally say, wow, you're a leader. Okay. So what you really have to do is think about your past. What drew you to things? What were you interested in? Was it community engagement? Was it being involved with your church? Was it writing? Like, did you write a lot when you were a kid? Did you love to go outside and hike and you formed a group of people that go hike together? So you really have to look inward and figure out, the compass purpose I told you about. And there are some activities that you probably do that you're not aware of that could go onto a resume, such as community building. And we could talk more if you want. And so, by the way, if anyone wants to have a chat with me, just contact me and we'll have a more one-on-one private chat and we can talk as well. Okay. Yeah, and so, to gain the employer's interest is your cover letter. Okay, so the cover letter is, let's say you're applying for a company called Cyclica, which is a bioinformatics company. If you go to their website, read everything they're doing, read their publications, read their white papers, all their press releases, and then come up with a proposal that you want to do for them, they're going to be saying, wow, we have to talk to the student. Okay, so how do you stand out? Is your cover letter and your initial contact. So if you're applying to the Cyclica, you're going to find, let's say, a U of T alumni, and there are several there, and write to them specifically. Say, I'm looking for a summer student experience. This is what I hope to bring to your company. Here's what I propose to do, and here's internship funding from this SWILP program, so you don't even have to pay me. Right? So even if you bring in ideas and also funding for yourself, that's how you're going to stand out. Okay. Next question. When you email supervisors about the prospect of working in their labs, what should the body of your email include? Do you format it as a cover letter, or should you include the cover letter as a separate attachment? So in the body of your email, it should be very short and to the point, but it would help if they are entitled to open up your cover letter because you spend a lot of time. Okay. And some people, each professor is different. Some of them really want to see that wow factor in the email. Some people, if you're going to write an email, it shouldn't be more than a paragraph long, maybe 5 or 6 sentences. Okay, so for example, you're going to be writing, Dear Dr. So-and-so, as a second-year immunology specialist, I bring my academic record and my teamwork skills to your lab to work on whatever that project is. Here in the attached cover letter, I outline some of my research ideas. Okay, that way, they know what's in the context of the cover letter, that you're proposing something, and they're going to want to open it. Okay, so even if you fill in maybe a few sentences on what you potentially want to be doing, that will help them open that. Okay, could you please mention some other opportunities that we can earn an experience, such as a research opportunity given by the Med Biophysics department? Okay, so each department has their own summer research program. So it's not streamlined in any way. So for example, if you go to the biochemistry department, they have a list of faculty that are, you can go under the undergraduate program, and it gives you the list of faculty that are open for bioinformatic research this summer. Because chances are, if you're not in the lab already, because of the current issue that we're having right now, is most likely that you will be receiving a bioinformatics project, so you can work remotely. Okay. But you're going to have to go through each department, even with the Med Biophysics department. How do you do this? So they're going to have an application form. Okay, so you're going to go in and fill out the official application form, but that's not stopping you from contacting individual professors, because this general application form goes to this bank of all these different applications, and then this application list is provided to the professors. So what do the professors do? They have to go through all of these applications and find, so which is a lot more work for them. So if you want to save time for them, and also to find that match that you want to be matched with, it's it doesn't hurt you if you contact the supervisor directly. Okay. Should you put awards or competitions you want on your resume? Yes. And how would you write it? So it would be at the very end of, it'll be a different section called awards. And if you've written a paper, like so any future publication, so awards, publications, invited conferences, it can probably go under at the very bottom. Have a good weekend too, Kyle. The professors ask you for a transcript for lab position. How much do your marks matter in weighting in comparison with your resume or cover letter? Each professor is different. So if a professor is, you know, let's say they work on complement in immunology and you didn't do too well in immunology, that's not going to look very good. However, if you write this fantastic proposal on your cover letter, that may compensate for it. But you know, I can't answer for all professors. Right? Some professors want stellar grades. Some say, well, as long as I have a B, I'm okay with that. And you know, just throwing that out there, a lot of studies have shown that there really is no link between if a person got an A+ on their transcript versus a B, and and their performance in graduate school. Okay, so your cover letter is really important. You can access a recording through the GLSE office. Unfortunately, my admin team, their internet had some issues today, so she couldn't join us. But if you don't see it on the GLSE YouTube site in about a week, then you can contact that office to Natasha Lowe. How do we contact me? You can contact me through email. I'll write it again down here, anna.lee. And if you want to chat, I can chat for about half an hour on your career plans and how do you want to proceed. And let's see, more questions. Okay, how do we, you mentioned if you have more questions. Okay, if you have more questions, just contact me through email. And then would the body of your email to supervisors be like your elevator pitch or a little extended version? Pretty much, it should be your elevator pitch of what you want to do for them. Why should they hire you? Why should they hire you, Peyton, out of the 40 other undergrads that are applying? So most undergraduates, when they apply, they're going to say, I'm looking for lab experience. But if you're the only one saying specifically to how that you want to help them, and you've shown that you've read their papers, their review articles, and that's really showcased in your pitch there, then that'll really get them excited about talking to you. Okay. Part of the reason I want research is because it's a requirement for my specialist, and I need to find a supervisor for a course. Would I just direct the email professor that would be open to taking a student as a supervisor and ask them they're accepting students at the moment? You can do that, yes. How do I write ideas in my cover letters if I'm not sure what I would be doing? You're not going to be sure what you'll be doing. However, all their publications are out there. So you do know what subject matter they're working on. Okay? So you can propose things, but they may have a different grant that wants you to do something else, but they would be excited and over the moon, just the fact that you propose something that you want to do. And it's also in the wording as well. You don't want to say, oh, this is what I want, this is what I want to do, this is definitely my project, but you're going to say, here is a potential outline of a project that I would like to do, and perhaps, and I would be open to any other suggestions. Okay, you're welcome, Vicki. Would it be appropriate to mention my interests, things I do in free time on the resume? It's not something that you would write down, like, if you love to bake or if you love to play an instrument, is not necessarily something that you write under hobbies. That's not something that they look at. However, if you love to bake and now you have a side baking business, that'll show you're an entrepreneur as well. Or if you love an instrument and you've taught other students before, or you formed a music group, or something that tells people, potential employers, that you can take a skill or a talent that you have and make it into something that builds community, then yes, it should go in your resume. The difference between a CV resume in terms of organization and content. So a CV is, I will just actually give you a link so you can see what a CV is supposed to look like. Okay. So if you go to this website, okay, this tells you in the middle of the page there is a CV template, and this is for professors. So you're obviously not going to have all those things such as grants and invited conferences and peer review and all this, but you can take that template and make it into your own. Just cut out stuff that doesn't apply to you. For a resume, what you usually see in terms of organization and content is at the top, you'll see your name and your email and your phone number and a LinkedIn URL if you have one. Then under that, there's going to be an objective statement. So what is that objective statement? It's not seeking an employment opportunity, because that's what everyone else is going to be writing. The objective statement is going to be very similar to the opening line of your cover letter. So offering academic scholarship, teamwork skills, and interest in DNA replication to the position of summer student research to strengthen your research in DNA repair enzymes. Okay, so there's an objective statement there. If you're applying for a company, the company's name should be there. So it's very specific to whoever you're applying for. And then under objective, you're going to have experience. So experience, you can start with if you did a lab experience before or what you did last summer, any experience, and it doesn't have to be paid. It can be volunteer experience, it can be a paid experience, a community experience, any experience that increased your core competency skills. So teamwork, negotiation, EQ, any of those things. So then you have experience, and under that there's education, which is 1 line per degree. And then under education, you will have pertinent skills. So this job requires you to know how to do an ELISA, for example. That's where that would go. Or it requires you to know how to learn, how to know R or SAS. That's where it would go. And then under that, you'd have your awards and scholarships and any sort of highlight things you want to talk about. Okay. And then Joshua asks, what if I'm applying for industry internship that is not research subject specific? What should I address in my cover letter? So if it's not a research subject industry internship, so let's say it's for consulting, or let's say it's for business management, you want to talk about what you're bringing and how. So for any company, they have a mission and a vision. So you want to address that. So let's say you're applying for Spindle Consulting. Okay, so they're a consulting firm and they're not research based, but they consult other businesses. What you want to talk about is what their mission, what their vision is. They also have written white papers on their work. So you want to talk about what part of their work do you want to help them with. Okay, so it's similar to no matter where you apply, you could be applying to be, an editor, a videographer, wherever, is you want to find out everything you want to know about that person or the research or the lab or the company, and then put in your past and figure out how are you going to help them with that, right? So for example, if I wanted to hire a personal assistant, what are you going to do? You're going to find out exactly what I work on, and then you're going to propose in your cover letter, dear Dr. Lee, here is what I can help you with. So that's what people want to see, no matter what, if it's a company or a person. Okay. Welcome, Jessica. You're welcome, Lisa. And Joshua, it is a research position, but it wasn't specified what a project they're working on. Okay, so if it's not specific what project they're working on, then generally they'll have either a department, right? They must have a department or a branch. Right? So for example, I'll give you an example. They may have, it's the Department of Transformative Pathology. It's something about pathology. Or if it's Cancer Care Ontario, it's something a cancer project. So you may not be able to really be specific on the project, but you can talk about the overall aims of that organization. Does that make sense, Joshua? How to propose my own lab project based on a supervisor's work. Okay, so the supervisor will have a grant. They will also have, that's funding for you. They will also have previous papers. Okay, so when you propose your lab project, it has to be in line with what that lab is doing. So the best way to do that is read the most current paper that they published and then extrapolate from there. Okay. So again, you have to phrase it in a way of here's what I would like to work on. Maybe it's the characterization and or helping isolate a particular enzyme. But then you also have to say, and I'm open to all of your suggestions, as long as, so you don't want to say, this is what I'm going to do, and that's it. You want to say you're open to other suggestions as well. All right. So any other questions? Thanks, Madeline. Thank you, Hanta. How to propose, what was the other question? Well, that was it. Okay, yeah, so you'll be able to look for this recording, and it was very nice to see people on chat. And again, if you have any questions at all, you feel free to email me and we can have a chat as well, just based on your own. And if you have a resume or a cover letter that you want me to look at, then I will be happy to help you with that as well. So good luck with any endeavor that you're hoping to do this summer. I know it's been an interesting year, so good luck with all that. And thank you for everything, for just kind of hanging in there as students. I admire all of you. Okay, bye. Have a good lunch. You're welcome. Oh yeah, I'll write my email again so you can see it. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Chunju. And I'll stay behind until everyone's gone, because I know some people want to ask private questions, or so I'll just stay behind until everyone has departed. Okay, for those of you at home that are watching, thanks for joining. Until next time, take care. Stay safe. Bye.